Guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. My name is Ali and today I have some thoughts to share. This is going to be more of a conversation than a formal video essay. I have a lot of things I want to cover, but I just wanted to sit down and have a bit of a chat with you guys about something that has been very prevalent on my mind the past few days. I know this is very different to my usual content, but if you would like to see anything else kind of commentary based like this from me in the future, make sure you give the video a like. It's what Susanna would have wanted. I really welcome opinions and perspectives that disagree with my own. I think it is very healthy and fun. I didn't relate to argumentative, antithetical dream girl for no reason. I'm truly always hoping to learn and see someone else's perspective. But ultimately, I just hope that in the comments, this can be a very respectful conversation. I'm just simply not interested in any other kind. Critical thinking is essential, but passion without respect is irrelevant. So I want to start this video off with kind of my main point rather than building up to it. Just because if people only stick around for one topic, I would rather it be that. And then I will go on and get into my thoughts around the show and teen dramas and love triangles in general. We are witnessing critically low levels of media literacy, critical thinking, and human empathy. And I want to talk about all of that today. If you follow me on Instagram, you know I've been away for the past like 4 days with one of my best friends just on holiday. And I couldn't stop thinking about this because obviously we had our weekly The Summer I Turned Pretty viewing session while we were away. And we had our thoughts that we shared throughout the episode. Then the response online really surprised me. The response to episode 9 of The Summer I Turned Pretty was not kind nor subtle. Not only are people tweeting and posting TikToks about how angry they are at Jenny for the episode not containing what they personally wanted it to.
Jenny, I need you front and center. What the fuck was that? I waited all week to watch that filler episode.
Oh my god, bro.
Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man?
I'm actually literally fuming right now. I just watched the most filler of fillerist episodes of The Summer I Turned Pretty, and this is episode 9.
I hope you're hungry for nothing.
They also went directly to her own page to make sure those feelings were heard. I know people have emphasized that it was Jenny's birthday when all of this was happening, and yes, I do feel bad about that, but I honestly just think this kind of behavior is out of line any day of the year.
I think now things have changed so much with having social media, and you never really get to sort of like completely turn off from hearing other people's like opinions about you, like as a person or the thing that you're making. At the end of the day, you have to be happy.
Not only is it unkind and borderline abusive to directly go to someone and say these things, I just simply don't understand the point. The show has been made. That script was made, it was filmed, it was edited, and it will be released. What does the thousands of people sending Jenny these hateful messages, what does that achieve other than filling someone's phone with metaphorical snakes? For anyone that understands what Taylor Swift went through in 2016, 2017, this is following that exact same pattern of behavior on a smaller scale, yes, but still directly targeting a human being, you know, with thoughts and feelings and a heart and a brain that reads those words. And like, I think I am feeling uniquely sensitive about this because it's something that I have also experienced on a much smaller scale. But people maybe don't think about a comment that they're sending because they think it's just one comment, or they think because it's online it doesn't matter, or because they perceive that person as so confident that it wouldn't sway them, wouldn't impact them at all. To me, there's no difference. If you get 1,000 hate comments in a day, that is the same as 1,000 people coming up to you and saying those things to your face. It creates the same psychological response in us. And you know, some are better at handling that than others. I'm really glad that Jenny Han has been kind of clapping back, for lack of a better word, but she just shouldn't have to. I just can't ever understand the motivation of seeking someone out to make them feel bad, especially when it's over like they tried to create something good for you. It honestly reminds me of players attacking an umpire. I've played competitive sport my entire life. I understand fully how frustrating it can be when a call is made that we deem as like bad or unfair. But abusing that person does nothing to help our cause. If anything, it's going to make that umpire less likely to side with us in like a 50-50 in the future, right? So I've just personally never understood like the inclination, the desire, the thought process behind attacking an umpire, because I'm like, what's that going to change? How is it going to better the situation we're in? If anything, it will likely make things worse. So I guess is the answer to that just people lack emotional regulation? Because to me, that is exactly what we are witnessing here. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying there should be no discourse, no conversation, no discussion around the media we consume. That is like my whole thing. It's what I love to do. Like, heck, I made entire videos about Twilight, Vampire Diaries, and Pretty Little Liars characters, reflecting on the choices they made and whether I would make them or whether I respected them. You know, which characters were evil, but I can overlook it and give them a pass because they're my soft spot. And let it be known that the crimes mentioned in the title here, those are actual crimes. That's like different. But to me, there is a huge difference in talking about a show with your friends or even a community online and seeking out the creator that made it for you to tell them that they are a failure and should quit their job or worse. I saw a lot of comments saying that, you know, Jenny did a bad job and I have a right to let her know that. And I personally don't think that's just an American sentiment. This notion of like, I'm a human, therefore I have the right to do XYZ. We all obviously have the ability and the right to do whatever we want. Does it mean that we should? No. Constructive criticism is great when it's asked for or in an appropriate setting.
Oh my God. Time and place.
But to say, well, they did a bad job at their job and I'm allowed to tell them that, what makes that any different to yelling at a barista for messing up your coffee order rather than just calmly explaining it? Where do we draw the line here for human decency and how we treat one another? I have two theories. First, I think we allow it and we feel it's different because it's online. People feel confident or anonymous or that it doesn't really have a real impact because they are able to hide behind their screen. They think their words won't matter. Clearly, these people haven't seen the critically acclaimed Emily Osment film Cyberbully because we know words can harm. It's 2025. How do we not know how to speak to one another with decency? Anyway, and my second point is that we perceive Jenny Han or anyone in the industry or in her position as successful and thus wealthy and thus not deserving of the same empathy or kindness or respect we would treat each other as everyday people with. How much media needs to be made depicting the mental health effects and harmful ramifications of bullying before we learn? This definitely isn't the same at all, but I do feel similarly to this situation as I did about the whole Benson Boone thing. The words I kept seeing about him on a platform that we know as a fellow young person he would use was just so absurd to me. Like, it truly felt like a really dark lack of humanity. I understand the enticing nature of wanting to open up conversation online. Hello, obviously it's what I'm doing here. It's more fun to speak to a broader community than just one single friend, for sure. But when it comes down to things like criticizing someone's looks or wishing them dead, maybe that one we can save for our best friend or our journal entry. When it comes to this overnight switch on Jenny Han, people went from singing her praises when it came to the peaches scene, the kitchen scene, the craft store, the dance floor edit, bathroom, and confession. Why are we then unable to practice patience while we witness the fallout of all of these great events? Were people expecting everything to be fine after the wedding? I don't really know. And I think it's really important that I'm making this video now, like before the show ends, because obviously one of the main criticisms of Jenny we've seen in the past week is that she hasn't left enough room for everything that she needs to fit into the last two episodes. And my response to that is, how do we know? Maybe she has, maybe she hasn't, but we don't know. We haven't seen those final episodes yet, so why complain about it? Why be upset about something we have not yet seen the final product of when we don't know what that even might be? And I truly think weekly releases has been the greatest thing this show has done for the Summer I Turned Pretty's success, but also for my personal enjoyment of it. I've loved getting to have this like conversation every week, that kind of water cooler chat, even if it's on like the hellscape that is Twitter. It's been so fun. However, because of that, because we have time each week in between each episode, there is also time to have discussion and critical thought, and in this case, some criticism that I think stem from a need for instant gratification. A lot of people online were saying like they can't believe that Belly and Conrad still aren't together, but I just don't see a world in which that was possible before seeing everything we've just had. You know, I'll get to my thoughts on episode 9 in a minute, but I do want to talk a bit about the moral virtue of characters and their actors. Hopefully we all know that characters are just a vessel for storytelling. A character making choices that we personally would not make is not bad storytelling. It's hopefully good writing of complex characters. Thinking about the fact that Elsie received so much hate online in season 2 because that was an original character that they weren't in the books and people didn't like their character. I just want people to sit with the idea of how it would have felt to be Elsie, for them to go online, on TikTok, on Twitter, walking into these spaces that we all collectively use and seeing what people were saying about them. Something they have no control over. I know Lola and Gavin had to limit their social media usage due to bullying over characters' decisions. And I know this is not anything new. Pre-TikTok, there were message boards back in the day. And then in the 2010s, there was Stan Twitter. Personally, I famously co-ran a Pretty Little Liars theory blog. So on online stan culture is not brand new at all. I'm sure even back in the day, shows like Friends were discussed online. And I'm sure the writing team was aware of these things, but that is very different to being harassed and critiqued in like your own world. So I want to talk about the way we perceive these characters, because this has been a growing issue and it was just abundantly clear to me in the wake of episode 9. I think we feel some kind of entitlement to fictional characters, and I haven't witnessed it this badly before, but I'm sure it was prevalent. I wonder if this is the case more because this show, compared to shows like The Vampire Diaries, The Originals, Teen Wolf, I don't know, other supernatural things, even Pretty Little Liars because Ravenswood. I think because The Summer I Turned Pretty is essentially based in reality, it's based in the kind of world that we exist in, people almost expect these characters to be perfect depictions of right and wrong, and if or when they make a mistake and are not directly punished for that, we feel like the show is endorsing that mistake, endorsing that behavior. If they don't suffer consequences and immediately for being an imperfect character, we interpret this as the writers conveying their moral conviction rather than this is a complex character and that's what they're experiencing. Nowhere is this more present, I think, than with our female lead character. I see so many people unable to stomach, no pun intended because of her name, to stomach Belly's messy mistakes. Think about season 1 where there was all these jokes about being team anti-Belly, or the samurai broke up a brotherhood, the samurai was a slut, whatever. And I've seen so much arguing over whether Laurel has the right to behave how she does towards Belly when they were asking for permission to be married, or towards Jeremiah when she went to see him after the wedding was called off. And I haven't seen this used as like a helpful discussion, but rather a gotcha or a punchline to those that are team Jeremiah or team Conrad fans, like using it to say that she's badly written, or that ship doesn't work, XYZ, or that it's lazy writing because, you know, because previously she was not on board with the wedding, as though we should hold a stagnant opinion this whole time. Like, I even saw criticism, if not hate, for this scene where Laurel was glancing at Conrad during the rehearsal dinner, and people were saying it's disgusting how she loves him more than she loves Jeremiah, which is not really how I interpreted that at all. People were saying like if she feels like she's stepping in to replace Susanna, she can't play favorites. I don't think she was playing favorites. I think the intention of that scene was to convey she's experiencing empathy for someone who she knows is heartbroken. In this moment at that dinner, Jeremiah is getting everything he wanted. He's announced this new job, he's marrying the love of his life, he's good. She doesn't need to like check on him in that moment. Laurel knew that Conrad was dying inside. Of course she's gonna spare him a glance. I could not believe that was being like criticized. I do also think that with this show, and especially season 3, we are seeing a love triangle that is a lot more uneven and divided than previous examples. If I compare this to The Vampire Diaries with Stefan and Damon, no matter which side you found yourself on, you could kind of always appreciate or see what Elena saw, and that she had chemistry and you could understand how someone else might root for that team that isn't the one that you know, are siding with. The same could be said for Lucas, Brooke, and Peyton, and probably My Life with the Walter boys, but I haven't really finished that. So, but I'm assuming there are valid arguments to be made for both sides, and I wonder if it is the show's success that has blown this conversation up so much, or if it's just the age of social media that we find ourselves in currently. This conversation has likely always existed and I just wasn't seeing it. I would love to know if any of you were on 2010s like stan Twitter. I just personally like wasn't really aware of it at the time, but I know Pretty Little Liars fans ran that shit, and while I'm sure that was fun, I also think it had negative outcomes. The showrunners for shows like Pretty Little Liars saw what fans were saying, saw who they were shipping, saw who they were theorizing to be A, and thus course corrected. Storylines were changed or rewritten as a direct response to this, and I don't know if it's controversial, but I don't think that's a good thing. I think it damages the integrity of the writing if writers are being swayed by public opinion rather than the story they originally set out to tell. Someone said this in my DMs and I really agree with it. Always perplexed by consumers who want to dictate to creators. Keeping the masses pleased isn't the space that anyone should create from. I completely agree with that. I also think it's a great reminder to me. If I don't get any hate comments that day, I breathe a sigh of relief. And it's like, that is not how my brain should be wired, because how quickly would that kill any kind of creative ideas I might have? But yeah, for example, had there not been so many vocal Ezria shippers back in the day, his ass would have been sent to jail, surely. We all have our problematic faves and our problematic ships, and that's fine. It's okay to be team Conrad, it's okay to be team Jeremiah. What's not okay is going to the people that make this show for you and saying, actually, you should die because I don't like what's happening to my favorite character currently. Even The idea and expectation that a show which has already been filmed could be changed because of your personal preferences very much requires self-reflection in my eyes. And I also think it's kind of reductive to call people on the opposite team stupid, because the very notion of a love triangle is that both sides, at least at some point, are meant to have merit to them. By design, there should be something valid to each prospect as a love interest, regardless of who ends up with our main character. Hi guys, sorry to jump in here. It is hours later and I completely forgot a whole tangent that I wanted to go on, which is how love triangles work. Like I said, there needs to be hope for both sides. Each side, each team needs to have something to root for, but ultimately there needs to be a point of inescapable incompatibility. Whether that is Gale's betrayal or Bella turning into a vampire, or literally if it is just, without reason, call it fate or destiny or chemistry, that our main protagonist simply prefers one over the other, as is the case with Belly. I could sit here and argue that Jacob's warmth and community and the relationship between Charlie and Billy Black, like how that would all be so much better for Bella. Or I could talk about how Stefan's desire to be a human and be a father would be so much more compatible with Elena's desire to be human. Or that Allie could and should have lived a long, happy, peaceful life with Lon instead of the man that she argued with all the time. But it does not matter. If there is a character that is like deemed to be their soulmate, our opinion is moo. It's a cow's opinion, it doesn't matter. None of this matters because at the end of the day, it is who that character loves most. And like an argument that I would have made and probably did say to friends in season 1 is that Jeremiah is like the healthier choice. He is upfront about how he feels, he is happy, he's outgoing.
You came just in time. You know, Belly's a disaster in heels.
You know, Belly's actually a good dancer. The waltz is just dumb. Sorry, I forgot. Also, I gotta go. Happy birthday, Belly.
Hey, why don't we take my car and practice driving before we have to pick up Taylor from the bus station?
So I think in the case of The Summer I Turned Pretty, I think both brothers were presented at times across the first 2 seasons as having both positive and negative qualities. And like this is essential, obviously, to sell the love triangle so that both teams have something to root for. And not only can like love their favorite, but also maybe see the potential of them being endgame. However, now that we are at crunch time, we are in, you know, the final few episodes, it is not uncommon to give one character a fatal flaw that kind of makes the choice for our protagonist, that takes them out of the running completely. You know, it gives our female lead and subsequently the audience an excuse to no longer view them as a viable option, and thus collectively turn our hearts towards the other love interest. And then as a result, kind of hopefully the majority of people will feel vindicated or happy with that result. For example, if there were any Team Gale shippers out there, the second the bomb went off, and I don't think I'm spoiling, surely everyone's read The Hunger Games by now, the second that it killed Katniss's sister, there was no going back from that. And on a smaller scale, the phone call with Belly served that same purpose. Jeremiah's one kind of claim over his brother was that he would never desert her, he would never treat her the way that Conrad did. And in that moment, his emotions got the better of him. Valid or not, like I'm not making a judgment on that, but I think that moment was to show like a darker side of him. I've got to give it to Gavin. His acting in this episode was like chilling. He's so good at portraying like almost passive aggressive rage. It's phenomenal. But yeah, I think the way that phone call ended was so essential for us to now go into these last 2 episodes with that door closed. And I'm so sorry to the Jeremiah shippers. It's not going to happen. I really do hope they can end up being best friends though, because, well, they're going to be siblings. So I want to talk about the downfall of Jeremiah Fisher, why it was deliberate and why it was needed. So purposefully showing a scene where Belly was somewhat coerced into sleeping together. Like, I don't want to make too big of a deal out of this because I know people have online, but like just from an adult perspective, it was intentional that Belly gave reasons for not wanting to be intimate in that moment. She said, people might hear us. I really want to go fix my hair. Like when someone doesn't feel vocal or confident to say, hey, I don't want to do this right now, it is easier to give like excuses, if that makes sense. Jeremiah ignored both of those and did it anyway.
People need to start getting ready soon.
Come sit next to me. Give me a kiss.
I have to finish doing my hair.
We have time.
I'm not accusing him of anything, but I am saying it was intentional and it was important. It served 2 roles. Firstly, it showed that Belly's feelings for him were like faltering, or at least her attraction, or perhaps she just mentally could not get into the present moment because of how she was feeling about Conrad in her mind. But it also drew a direct comparison to the way Conrad treated her with his repeated checking for consent.
We should probably...
No. Don't stop.
No, I hope I didn't bring you here just for this. We don't have to do anything.
No. I want to.
This was a choice done deliberately, and I think another great example of that is how we see the body language when cuddling, even comparing Steven and Taylor. Obviously, a lot of us have been making jokes about the song Man-Child, but I think in season 3 there's been a very intentional direction, as in like film direction and like direction on set, not like the journey, but direction to show Belly in a more, I want to say motherly role, but she's been more taking care of him, and then in direct contrast showing Conrad as this kind of figure taking care of her. I'm trying to think of other love triangles where one of the options was taken out of the running due to like one behavior or action. Like what was Jacob's when he kissed her without consent? I can't think of any off the top of my head, but the One Tree Hill writers are interesting because they kind of always kept 3 doors open for Lucas. And again, I think that was intentional. But anyway, back to the video. Obviously, ship wars are not a new thing. Just, I feel like I personally haven't witnessed hostility to this degree before. And on the note of ship wars, I think we've witnessed people becoming, like I said earlier, quite territorial and protective around these fictional characters. I got a DM in response to an Instagram story where I'd said something complimentary about the Conrad Belly yearning this season. You know, how many great rom-com movie tropes we were kind of witnessing them do with Conrad. It's just been like a masterclass in storytelling, I think. And the person was like, well, I remember in season 1, you criticized Conrad, you weren't a fan, you weren't fully team Conrad yet. As if to say kind of like the rest of us that we're better than you because we foresaw this potential, or like we loved him even when he was problematic. Yeah, which I just found really interesting to make it kind of like a moral judgment, because in my mind, the entire point of Conrad's journey is that he has grown and he has developed and he has put in the work too. Like it's not been accidental. He's not just being framed as this leading man now because Jenny likes him. Like, yes, that's part of it, but it's because we saw him actively putting in the work. Like we've witnessed Conrad go to therapy. We've seen him working on the house. We've seen him be more open and honest, not only with himself, but with others. We've witnessed him prioritizing his mental health. How many times have we watched him soothe himself through a panic attack? These are all things that endear us to Conrad. It's like if I said to someone, well, you didn't like Nathan Scott from, you know, the first 5 episodes of season 1, therefore you can't join our team and like him now. Character development is the entire point. So like, why is the conversation, oh, you want to jump ship now when I've been here from the beginning? It's like, well, yeah, I didn't want his ass in the beginning. Like when he was being rude to Belly, smoking, lying to his brother.
I liked you better with glasses. God, do you memorize every single thing that I've ever said? You're such a brat. Your hair's like a little kid's, the way it's always so messy. Grow up, Belly.
Stop being such a baby.
Oh, and you're such an adult?
Why don't you go look in the mirror some more?
Go be with Jer. He's the one that wants you.
There were traits that I did not appreciate, just like there were with Jeremiah, as if these aren't dynamic characters that should grow and change and become better with time.
How come nobody ever wants to play with me?
And maybe not even better, but just like respond to what life throws their way. When it comes to having a preference or a team or picking a side, like I said earlier, the mark of a good writer is that there should be people that can fall on either side, and this will be dictated by our own life experience. Like if we have dated a Conrad or a Jeremiah, that might make us less likely to feel empathetic towards him or to like feel drawn to him. So I was just thinking about wanting to do a poll on my Instagram story saying, which team are you? Do you like Conrad or Jeremiah? And I know that the results would be overwhelmingly Conrad, but then I know I would still get at least 100 to 300 DMs being like, how can anyone be team Jeremiah at this point? And I'm just like, so then I don't think I can be bothered doing it. But again, I just think we have to take into account people's personal experience and how that has impacted us. Like as someone that has lost a parent to cancer, that obviously changed how I viewed the first season compared to maybe how someone else would. As an only child, it also makes me have a different relationship with the brothers and thinking about how if I was in Conrad's shoes, I think keeping that a secret from his brother is a crazy thing to do, but I don't have a sibling, so I can't really judge that, if that makes sense. So anyway, I guess my perspective is having a team is so fun. I love having a team and a side and rooting for a character and whatever. But ultimately, I think we should hold space for the fact that there will be people who have walked through the world in a different way to us that will identify with characters in a way that we can't understand, and that's okay. I even see criticism of Steven when in season 1 or 2 he said to Conrad, tell her how you feel, and then just recently had said to Conrad, like, why the hell would you do this? I sit here like, do people not understand that these scenes take place 4 years apart? Are they not taking in the difference in the context? Like, I genuinely don't know if people are not aware of that fact, because context matters so much. Obviously at this point, most most of us are shipping Conrad and Belly together, and like anything that stands in their way feels like an obstacle. But for Steven's perspective, in one case he was telling his best friend who he knew liked his sister to go for it. In the other case, he's just witnessed someone else be presumably a really good boyfriend to his sister for 4 years, and now on like the eve of their wedding has had someone else blow it up. Those are two different scenarios. And I feel bad because to me, the mark of good storytelling is always being able to put yourself in a character's shoes. Whether you agree with it, whether you would make the same decisions, you know, the challenge of an actor is to understand why they made that choice. And hopefully we as the viewers can do the same. Was it frustrating watching Steven side with Jeremiah when he had no idea about Lacey and Cabo? Yes, of course. But that just gave us all something to like want and yearn for and hope for, which is for him to eventually find out about it. If he knew that from the beginning, there'd be no story. I want to say a little bit in defense of this week's episode. So one of the main criticisms I've seen online directly about Jenny and the writers is that they are making Conrad suffer too much and it's not fair. I just want to remind people that A, he is a fictional character, and B, it is literally the point. The reason we feel empathetic and are rooting for him so much is because of how much suffering we've witnessed him endure. We are supposed to feel bad for him. We're supposed to feel frustrated at Steven for not keeping in touch and relieved when Taylor reaches out to him. This is not weak writing. That is the entire point. We know the reason that Taylor's perspective shifted. People were like, how could she say this the night before and then this at the wedding? Because she understood the context. And I think the same can be said for this tweet. This also really confused me. People were upset at the showrunners for allowing Jeremiah to call Conrad Conrad, but that's like what his character was feeling in that moment. I don't understand how that's like problematic for a character to do that. You know, a show or movie or book is not endorsing a behavior just because a character does it. But I think this comes back to feeling territorial and protective around our favorite characters, because I think it's very fair to say that like Team Jeremiah has not been winning this season, and I'm sure for those that are like staunchly on that side and were hoping for a jellyfish endgame, that must be really hard to know that your team is losing or going to lose. But yeah, even for like Conrad fans to say that it was irresponsible of the writers to have Jeremiah call him that, I don't understand that perspective at all. I also know there was a lot of backlash around how much we saw of Jeremiah and the other guests this episode, but like this was arguably the biggest day of his life. His wedding to his best friend, his favorite person in the world, was called off because she loves his brother. That's a big deal, so I think it was important to see the fallout of that. And without an episode like that showing this fallout, there would have been just as much criticism, or saying like, so what, now Jeremiah's pain just gets ignored and glossed over and we don't even get to see it? I think it was really important to see that. Obviously today people are used to either shows coming out all at once or limited run seasons with 8 to 10 episodes. And I think with 24 episodes back in the day, we had a lot more time to play. And like, I mean, in my mind, I just never would have considered this a filler episode anyway. But even back in the day, episodes where like not that much happened were very normal. Like we had alternate reality episodes, musical episodes, bottle episodes, things that now people might view as boring because there's not that much driving the plot forward, but it was integral for character development. Anyway, my favorite scene in this week's episode was, I think, the one with Conrad and Adam, surprisingly.
I told her I loved her.
Who?
Huh?
Belly.
What?
Why the hell would you do that?
Because I love her.
Oh. Okay.
I've been a vocal Adam hater this season. It's honestly been fun, like watching him. I think he plays a really good villain. But to humanize his character so much this week felt so important for like Conrad to see, yes, this is the man that cheated on your mum when she was sick. It's easy to put him in a box. It's a lot harder to recognize, hang on, he could still have something to offer me. He might still have valuable advice or wisdom or some kind of knowledge that he learned from that big mistake that he made.
You have people who love you, and I trusted that you would lean on them. And you did. And so will he.
I think a lot of the times people prefer villains to be really cut and dry, to be really like black and white and have no nuance. But it's, again, one of the reasons Dan Scott is one of the best written characters, because there is nuance there. There are layers. And I think we saw a bit of that here. Characters should be three-dimensional, and I think they have been. And we've seen that same criticism for Belly, and even to Lola for Belly's messy decisions. You know, it's the reason there were so many people saying anti-Belly in season 1. Did I have the same feelings towards season 1 Lucas Scott at times? Yes, but we understand that these are fictional characters and conflict is the entire point. I feel like we could do a whole other video on like complex female characters that make mistakes and are messy, like Peyton Sawyer, Elena Gilbert, and Belly, but I think that's a different conversation than right now. I do think one of the hardest things that this show has to face is the limited amount of episodes, for sure. You have to pack a lot more in. You have to balance the fact that there are book fans that want you to be true to the story, but also I think secretly deep down want to be surprised. And then you have people that, like me, have never read the books and are witnessing this for the first time. It's a lot of people to try and please and not much time to do it. I know people also really hated watching Belly run through Paris and chase that bag. I get it.
I respect it.
It's very different to what we've been seeing, you know, in previous episodes, but I don't think it counts as filler. It's symbolic. She's terrified to let go of her past. She's unsure of if she should stay in Paris, if there's something here worth chasing. And by the end of that episode, she realizes she has the strength, she has the courage and the ability, and she chooses to stay and makes this decision whilst next to a building that is being reconstructed, representing the fact that she still has capacity for growth and change. I know people felt like there wasn't a lot of interpersonal drama this week, but I think that's essential for like tying up loose ends so that we can go into these final 2 episodes, not with a clean slate, but like with less mess between these characters. Another criticism I saw was kind of questioning Jeremiah's behavior. Again, don't get me wrong, I'm not a Jeremiah defender, but I am using my brain, I guess. Like, people online were saying, the wedding is off because Belly loves Conrad. In the next 24 to 48 hours, Belly and Jeremiah talk on the phone. Jeremiah wants to get together again, even though they broke up because she loves his brother. I guess there was like, people couldn't understand why he was making this choice, whether it was like bad writing or just a poor choice on his behalf. I think this kind of stems back to what I was saying at the top of this video about empathy, but it's just putting yourself in someone else's shoes. Denial and bargaining are 2 common stages of grief. When the realization hits, that harrowing feeling dawning on you of how different your life is going to be now, it's really common to try and convince yourself that actually that decision you made was a mistake and it can be undone, regardless of how irrational that is. When we are in pain, we seek comfort and familiarity, and for Jeremiah, Belly has been both of those things for the past 4 years. Without his mum alive, a strained relationship with his dad who kind of prefers his brother, and Conrad across the sea or not speaking, for better or worse, Belly became his family. That's why he made that call. That's why he was happy to like try again, because what he was feeling being apart from her was painful. It wasn't working. He's like, let me try an alternative. Do I think it would be a good idea for them to get back together? No, obviously not. Do I understand why that character made that choice? Yes, of course. I also just think it was an important scene for both characters to reach closure and like get to where they needed to get emotionally for these next few episodes to happen. Side note, I do think it would have been interesting to explore that codependency idea between them a little bit more. Obviously, we had Taylor bring that up.
I'm worried about you. I feel like you've completely lost yourself in Jer, and like that's not love, that's codependence.
While I think there were like glimpses of it, I don't think we really exemplified that enough with anyone's behaviors. Let me know if you guys feel like there was stuff I missed, but I just feel like they could have demonstrated that a bit more, that codependency. And given I haven't read the books, but I do think the intention of a lot of their relationship this season had to kind of not string along Jeremiah fans, but like keep some glimmer of healthiness and hope so that they'd keep watching the show. Ultimately, I think the phone call at the end of that scene was integral to kind of push along his relationship with Belly. At the wedding, Belly knew that if she asked, Jeremiah would still marry her. Jeremiah still loved her and would be able to put aside the fact that he was kind of second choice. By the end of that phone call, his sadness had turned into anger, which I think is like integral for A, Jeremiah to eventually get over Belly, B, for the audience to no longer see him as a viable love interest for her, like to witness him speak with such anger and disrespect to her. We kind of know, okay, we can close that chapter now. And C, for Belly to change her mind and realize that she should stay in Paris. That conversation achieved all 3 of those things really well, I think. Now, am I nervous about fitting everything that needs to be fit into the next 2 episodes? No. And I'll tell you why. Obviously, the main criticism we're seeing is like the final 2 episodes will be rushed because, as we can all assume, if we understand TV romance tropes and have seen how Jenny feels about Conrad, we can all assume that Belly and Conrad will end up together. The main fear, I think, is that we won't have enough time to like see them together long enough. I think I've seen people say like, if we only get 20 minutes or 10 minutes of them being happy together, I will sue. And I not only think that this is possible, but I think it's likely. And I have 0 issue with that. If we think of most romance films, the meat of the film is the conflict. It's the can we be together? No, we can't. Why not? Maybe we can, but there's this obstacle. To quote one of the top 5 Mary-Kate and Ashley films, half the fun is getting there. The movie ends after the big kiss, and then we understand that there is an implied happily ever after. We don't need to see it.
We wound up going to Princeton together and lived happily ever after, at least for now. I'm only a freshman.
I personally do not want an entire episode of just watching a couple be happy. Think about that second scene we got of Taylor and Steven together where they were just laying in bed, drinking champagne, being happy. That to me did not drive the story forward or add value. To me, it is all in the build up, the conflict, and the resolution. I just don't care to see a couple with nothing going on. That scene was fine, it was cute, but to give more of that would have done the story a disservice, I think. So people that are saying like, if we don't get at least 20 minutes of Conrad and Belly just being happy together, I think it would be boring.
I like a hopeful ending. I don't like too neat of an ending.
Okay.
Personally. But I really must insist on hope.
Now I'm about to spoil the ending of a show that ended in 2004. In Friends, the lead up, the will they won't they of Ross and Rachel is one of the main reasons people tuned in every week. That yearning, that conflict. In the finale, we see Rachel get off the plane from Paris, ironically, the implication that she and Ross are finally going to be properly together. We don't then watch them for the rest of their lives live out that happily ever after. We don't watch Monica and Chandler raise the twins. The happily ever after is implied, and that is more than enough. And people say the same thing about the One Tree Hill reboot. They say like, if Nathan and Haley aren't going to be in it, I'm not watching. And I actually feel the opposite. I'm like, please do not put them in it because those two have suffered enough. And if you are bringing them back into this reboot, there must be a conflict for them. You must break them up or have an issue for there to be a storyline. And I just want them to rest and be happy. Whereas Brooke and Peyton, presumably for there to be any story, those two will need to be in some capacity single. I don't want to spoil too much before I get the chance to do like a One Tree Hill character ranking, but I think it's interesting that people are just expecting, but also will be disappointed if we don't get to watch like a happy together couple, when to me that has never really been the case in romantic fiction. Think of an Emily Henry book. The happy together part is maybe the last chapter, and that is plenty. You have worked to get there. We don't need to see like half the book of just the boring happy and love stuff. I'm sorry, but there would be no story. So all of this is to say, I have full faith in Jenny Han, and even if I didn't, I would not be over there in her comment section making it her issue. I understand the concern from book fans. I'm sure there is a lot of content in those last pages that you're wondering how she can fit into like 2 hours, but I simply believe that she can. So I know we covered a lot today and my light is getting kind of distracting now, so I'll probably go. Yeah, I'm really excited to talk to you guys about this in the comments because obviously if you are here, you are likely a fan of teen dramas and love triangles and media consumption in general. So I think there is a lot we could talk about. My hope is that everything can be respectful regardless of whose teams we are all on. I'm no stranger to being on a losing team, if you know who I've rooted for historically, and that's fine. There is one that does keep me up at night, which I think I'll save for a unpopular opinions video because I think, anyway, I'll get there one day. Yeah, let's have a chat in the comments. Tell me what you're thinking about this show, whether you've read the books or not, and what your predictions are for these final 2 episodes. I can't wait to chat to you all. I hope this video goes down okay. I know it's maybe more controversial than anything else I could have talked about. I'm really glad we have this community and this space to chat about really meaningful things like teenage drama love triangles. Nothing could be more important. I love you guys. I'll chat to you in the comments and I'll see you next time. Bye!
Is this what it feels like?